Good day to all my fellow marks out there, and welcome to the wacky and wild world of professional wrestling. The only form of entertainment where the most dominant and menacing faction are dressed in fresh jeans, white t-shirts. Grab yourself a drink and a snack, keep your feet up and relax. You are now listening to the Groupchat Wrestling Podcast.
Hello, welcome to the Groupchat Wrestling Podcast, you drongos. As we've got a big date down under with Grand Slam Australia on the horizon, we brought Sam in from the AEW Match Guide Podcast on the Social Suplex podcast network. The bloke knows his wrestling better than Joe Mangle knows how to dodge his responsibilities. And as he's going to the event, we thought who better to bring in and have a chat about it. So we're on to episode 32 now, 3 and 2. It's interesting.
32.
What happens when you flip around 3 and 2? 23. What does 23 mean? Yeah, we won't go into that kind of stuff today. So, but while I grab a cold one and throw another shrimp on the barbie, even though no Australian has ever said that before, I'll let the lads introduce themselves before we talk about the biggest wrestling event to hit Australia since Mick Dundee put that sleep hold on that bloke with the knife.
Wow.
So,
every single stereotype, every single one ticked off inside 1 minute. Wow. Like, I've got nothing to add. I'm Wrestling Mark. AEW just had a fucking fantastic week. Grand Slam on the horizon. Another good Dynamite, inevitably before that. We're eating well this side of the wrestling reservoir. And yeah, I'm good to go. And Sam, you've been introduced already, but without the cliches, do you want to give it a shot yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Andy gave me the big wind up. I feel like I'm never going to be able to live up to all that. That was fantastic. I love it. But yeah, look, just for anyone listening out there, I want to get this out there. We don't call them shrimps in Australia. We call them prawns. Yeah,
That's what we call them. We call them prawns.
Deli trying to get some. Exactly. That's what they're called. No one calls them shrimp here. I don't know where that's come from. I guess it was American propaganda to try and trick you all to come over here and spend your hard-earned USD here in Australia, which I think they've tried to do for Grand Slam to make a poor segue. They've tried to do for Grand Slam, but they clearly didn't get enough people because we're in an arena, not a stadium. But I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really stoked to be on here today with you guys. I've been listening for months and months, and we've been trying to line this up, but the stars have aligned perfectly for our Grand Slam preview we're going to do today.
So, I'm really looking forward to Grand Slam. They'll show the world how a 5-match card should be done, in my opinion. I think before we touch on that, I think it's worth having a little shout back to this week because AEW coming for a bit of criticism, rightly or wrongly, to start the year for a few of the shows that. Well, maybe for whatever reasons people like to moan, but maybe they had a bit more right than usual to moan. But the last Dynamite and Collision, honestly, I don't remember, in my opinion, a week that good when we had 2 shows that were of that kind of a 9 out of 10 standard. A great week to lead into Grand Slam.
Agreed. Yeah, it's like the best week we've had since the last time we had an awesome week.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm sure we had one towards the end of last year like this, but it's great when both shows hit, and especially when there's concurrent storylines going on that are actually being expanded, and it makes the show. It makes us feel like our time isn't wasted, if that makes sense. Like it's all leading to something.
Yeah.
And when you can get on there and the discourse is positive, the crowd is good, it makes you feel alive, particularly, when there is mixed feelings. So for me, we'll get into it, but with leading into Grand Slam, I've got some mixed feelings around the whole thing. But having 2 incredible shows back to back on the lead up, and a lot of it building towards what we'll be seeing on the weekend, it makes you feel happy to be a fan. And there was so much good stuff going on there. I watched Collision in 2 parts, just because various things. And I just watched that Fletcher and the Fletcher and Briscoe match last night. And by God, that was so fun. That was so good. Both times those guys have got in the ring together, absolute magic. You think about the C2 match, which I was spoiled on the ending, and the final stretch still got me. And then this one with Briscoe just bleeding, and you want to see both of them do so well. And they're, you're just so into these matches they're having. They've got such good chemistry, and they get the connection with the crowd as well. It's not just, good, great wrestling. It's a great storytelling, great character. It's the whole package being performed.
I think that was the crowd. I mean, again, we all know that how important a crowd can be. But it was a timely reminder of just for them to take note as well. Some of these places they've been to, they've had really good shows, and it is let down when a crowd's a bit flat. This show was elevated from an outstanding crowd. They were there to have fun. I mean, why you wouldn't be? When you're spending your hard-earned cash, you go in and watch what you know is going to be 2 or 3 really, really good matches. You expect a good crowd, and I think that they've earned some better crowds than they've had in recent times. Rosenberg, Texas, at the Ford Bend Epicenter, knocked it out of the park on Saturday night. They were absolutely outstanding from the first bell to the last. And it added so much to the show, just seeing a crowd that are just invested in everything they were doing.
It really does. I kind of wish that they would look at these places that they've been and they've got such hot reactions and schedule them again sooner rather than later, rather than going to places like fucking Spokane. Where, I mean, you could literally hear a pin drop in that place. It was ridiculous.
I'm quite I do kind of like take note of the ones. I mean, when I used to ramble on Twitter all the time, I would often like note down like what the worst crowds were, and there are certain states that seem to have like a far better atmosphere generally than others. Like a lot of the time they go to Georgia, it's not particularly good. A lot of the time they go to, especially to Alabama, they have some really quiet crowds here. Spokane, Washington was one of the worst wrestling crowds I've seen, even for like a WWE Stomping Grounds 2019 show. It would have been bad. And Texas have earned more shows than they get now. That was honestly, it added so much to it, seeing them like that camera shot the whole time. They were so raucous from the very first match all the way up until the end of until Fletcher getting the proper send off, the credits over him standing tall at the end, which is a real big moment for him, I think, heading into Grand Slam as well. But honestly, great show, great week. Dynamite as well was outstanding, and yeah, it feels good to be an AEW fan.
A shout out to my mate Floyd Johnson Jr. He was in front row. He actually, the opening shot of Collision was him screaming, "Let's go!" They went. Yes, he's a good lad. Social Suplex Podcast Network, all things elite. He's the one who does that. But yeah, look, as you said, Mark, it was a fantastic show, and even the Death Riders segment, right? Like much of the last few weeks have been like, man, so much is hitting in AEW, but the Death Riders are still dragging a bit. But man, that segment, you get John Moxley in front of a passionate crowd saying straightforward words, and it wasn't, he did so well as a face, obviously, and he was so good as a face in those sorts of positions, but he did it as a heel this time, and it's the most he's connected since he was choking Danielson out with a plastic bag. And maybe that one's turning a corner. Maybe it's a false storm, but maybe that program is turning a corner as well. It certainly felt like it watching Collision with how they presented him. If they can do more of that, I'm very optimistic for the future of that program.
It needed that. It needed an injection, because I've defended it from the off. I love the idea. I understand they're being patient for certain things, but I was running out of patience, to be honest, with the pace it was moving at and the lack of innovation and creativity it had. Like, Collision was an injection it needed, and it's really important they carry that on this Wednesday and then in Australia on Saturday.
It still needs a shot for me. It needs a turn or something. They need something to freshen the group up a little bit. But as you say, that promo, that's a hell of a good start if you are going to give it a bit of a shot now, because it was a damn good promo, and we need to be Mox needs to be given more of these rather than just coming in, beating someone up and then scooting out down the back. Get on the mic and get across what it is you're trying to achieve. Get the kind of, look, he doesn't even need to really come out with the intentions of the group, but just get on there and say something and fire everybody up.
And he's so good at that. Like that's his best. He's good at a lot of things in wrestling. But if you had to rank, like, what is the number one thing that John Moxley can do? What is the best thing we can do for him to make sure he gets over and his program connect with the crowds? It is stand in that ring with a mic and talk. And they just need to keep doing it. I mean, even we've now got a trios title program starting. Like, how long has it been since we've even seen those trios belts? But now they're out there. It seems like they have had a bit of a rejig in this program to be like, okay, this hasn't been working. Let's see what we can do. We're not gonna upend the world. And there were times where I was probably calling for that, but it's not going to happen. But what are some tweaks we can make that are going to improve things? And you can see that now. We've got a trios program forming. They were making trios challenges. They had the belts out. It's small things like that could hopefully turn the angle around. And, it felt like all of a sudden things were starting to click at this collision. We'll see, if it continues to Dynamite, Grand Slam, and onwards to Revolution. But at least on this collision, it felt like things were clicking.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I still think that it needs, like I say, it needs a turn, another edition. But look, I'm not going to give up hope that we're going to get a leather jacketed Orange Cassidy turn up at some point. But it's a start, like you say, and it's good going into Grand Slam, and hopefully, we can progress from there onto Revolution. And ideally, give me some more progression in the other storylines that I want to converge at All In.
I am, like, the one thing I would say is I've definitely mentioned it before. I am slightly underwhelmed and concerned about. Concerned is not the right word. I'm not concerned. I'm not scared. But like the Cope v Mox main event, I thought that would happen at Grand Slam, and I think that was the perfect. I mean, I'm looking forward. I love a good street fight. That match is going to rule, and we'll get to that down the line. But I just Mox v Cope doesn't feel like a Revolution title match, because that's going to go on last. It just doesn't do it for me. There's a lot of riding on them, I think, to really pull out the stops in that match. It wouldn't surprise me if they chuck like a hardcore gimmick on it as well to make it give it a bit more jazz or something, because there's a lot of eyes on that, because there'll be a lot of matches before that will knock it out the park on in early March. So I'm quite surprised they've gone with that.
It feels for me like it should be a special Dynamite main event, kind of like his I Quit match with Christian was a main event of an important Dynamite. It shouldn't be the main event of a pay-per-view, not for me anyway.
It's when you look at Revolution,
we're going to get a triple threat.
Think Jay White's going to get added?
Jay White.
Oh God, I
hope
reckon
so. There's going to be some sort of angle at Grand Slam, and that's going to be the angle heading in. I mean, you're calling for I have never thought of this before in my life, but you're calling for a twist. What if the twist at Grand Slam is Jay White becoming a Death Rider?
Interesting.
He came out separately to the came out separately to the Bang Bang Gang. They separated them.
Yeah.
So
that was the only confusing part for me at Dynamite. Really, was them coming out separate when he needed help at the start. I would have much rather seen them turn up, but who knows? Maybe it's heading that way.
Maybe that's by design.
I just want to. I want this Cope and FTR thing to hurry up, and so give us the FTR turn. We need a heel turn with them. I say we Rex Smith. No, but I want a heel turn with them again, because I just feel like it will give them a bit of a it will rejuvenate the run a little bit. We can maybe get them going for the tag titles, or whatever. We'll just get more out of them with a heel turn, because this FTR's face is coming in, and the rah-rah speeches, and I love my family and all that. Yeah, it's great, but it's been done to death now, and it's just it's at the point when personally I just find it really boring, and I hate saying that, because FTR are a great tag team. When they're in the ring, they can go. They just need something. Something needs to change, and rated FTR isn't it for me.
A few months ago, I reviewed the Briscoe series, the FTR Briscoe series on the AEW Match Guide. We looked at the first match, and I watched the promos in the lead up, and I'd forgotten how good FTR were as heels.
They're so good.
Going back and watching those, I was immediately just like, breath of fresh air. They so need this, and this was like just towards the end of last year. If they needed it there, they need it doubly now. But just seeing them how good they were in that, and thinking like, oh, these guys like condescending to acts like we talk about the Outrunners. If you wanted to try and do something with Private Party, now they've lost the titles. Having these guys, there's so many different the luchadors. You could just put together different luchador tag teams and have FTR face those guys as heels. It would immediately rejuvenate them, and it made sense in 2022 for them to turn face, and the way that they did it in that Briscoes feud was like really organic and really well earned, and it got over so hugely because it was done so well. But at this stage, like I'd love to see some sort of refresher on their character, and it felt like they were heading that way with the Outrunners towards the end of last year. But then the stuff with Edge came along. Maybe they can pick it back up again afterwards and see what happens.
It feels like they wanted this for a while, because they trademarked the rated FTR stuff ages ago, didn't they, before his injury? And it feels like they're like, oh, let's just get. I'm hoping it's just a case of, look, let's just get this done for it. Yeah, let's just do a couple of months of this, sell some merch, and then we'll turn on you, or something like that, because then we can kind of move Cope on to the thing I guess most people want him to be involved in, which is Christian. He can move back onto that, and maybe we can somehow, I don't know how we get there, but we can somehow get them teaming up again, and put FTR in the Death Riders. That'll give them a the jolt that they need, really. FTR would be a great addition to the Death Riders.
I think so as well. I'd love to see him now. I think it makes sense. I think it's run its course now. I think as we've touched on, I think that their heel runs are better. I think they work better as heels. I think it suits their in-ring style more to be heels. I hope it happens sooner rather than later. Again, I want FTR I want them to win the tag titles. I want them to touch on the stuff with the Outrunners again, because I think there can be a couple of really, really good moments down the line. Again, I don't think there's anything long-term for the Outrunners as tag champs or anything, but I think there's a couple of genuinely really good moments in there.
Yeah, same. And plus, for me as well, a lot of people won't want this because we've had it so many times. I don't care. I like seeing my favourite wrestlers wrestle. I want to see FTR. I don't want to see FTR Young Bucks as is, but if FTR are heels and we get face Young Bucks, I would like to see that again. Yeah. Because it would be different than the last 3 matches we've had.
And people underestimate that series because when it happened last year, it didn't feel right last year, right? And but it felt thrown together. You watch those matches. Yeah, you go back and watch those matches though, and they're really incredible matches. Like it's not what everyone hoped. Like the best matches the Young Bucks have ever had, they've been against the Lucha Bros. The best matches in AEW that is, and the best matches FTR have been against the Briscoes. There's a bit of a styles clash there that means that they're not going to be. It doesn't seem like they're going to be each other's best opposition, but at the same time, it's still really high level. And I think the only reason people are upset at all about the quality of it is because we expect so highly. Our expectations are so high for it because they're two such great teams, and it just hasn't necessarily clicked, particularly last year. Even though the ladder match was still really good, it just felt like by the time they got to All In and were still circling each other, it was just like, come on, move on, Blakes.
I feel like the matches have been harmed by just the general perception of
100%.
Another FTR Bucks match, and when you isolate it from that, they're actually, as you say, they're really good matches. But
the ladder
it's
match,
just another one.
The ladder match was outstanding. But it wasn't giving us sufficient build, and that does help when you've got it, because when teams are that good, you want them to go into that match with it meaning everything. I know what it was for, but it didn't feel correctly built to. And then again, because we've recycled it, but again, if you take that match from Dynasty in isolation, it was a proper, it's solid 4.5 out of 5 stars, 9 out of 10 kind of match if you want to look at it that way in the normal person's metrics. But again, I would still like to see them touching it a couple more times. I think there's maybe a dog collar match in there. There's more to run in that, and I think they probably feel themselves they've got a bit to prove against each other.
The Bucks have got to find someone to have a hair match against. I mean, it's probably not going to be Dax Harwood. It might be difficult. Maybe you could put the Mo on the line. I don't know, but
the Outrunners.
Oof,
I've won against the Outrunners.
That's a lot of receding hairlines.
Yeah, Turbo can lose the bit around the side, the Terry Nutkins, Hulk Hogan style hairstyle. Get rid of it.
I always envisaged the Bucks having a mask versus hair match against the Lucha Bros, but it doesn't look like that's ever going to pan out now, unfortunately. Unless when they're all really old and in Arena Mexico, and just have a bloodbath like the old blokes do in AAA.
It doesn't look like they're going to have one of them against the Lucha Brothers, but it also doesn't look like anyone's going to have anyone in AEW going to have any hair versus hair matches against Ricky Starks or Miro.
Nice segue
from the news today. Yeah, let's. What do you think on that?
Can I jump on there first? I'm not going to say anything bad about anyone involved because I just don't want to, but I don't feel any two ways in a negative way towards AEW that the relationships with them are over. I was gutted that things didn't work out differently with Miro because I was a WWE fan when he did the stuff with Rusev and he got over with Aiden English. It just didn't materialise. There were some good times, don't get it wrong. Ricky Starks is someone I've never really gravitated towards. I've often found that I think he's only as good as his opponent, and I've not particularly enjoyed his stuff unless he's up against a Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, etc. Aleister Black again, he's someone again. I love his NXT stuff. Didn't enjoy anything on the WWE main roster. Was excited he came to AEW. And being honest, I've felt I don't like his promos. I find that they're waffly. I don't resonate with them. I never resonated with the Undertaker. I don't really resonate with those kind of supernatural gimmicks. Again, I think that his injuries have built up with him, and I think that it just makes sense he's not in AEW anymore. Ray Phoenix is such a shame he's ending on such a bad note, because the Luchas did so much for AEW. The cage match at All Out 2021 will still be one of my favourite matches of all time. Will always be. It was just amazing. Everything about it was amazing. It's a shame it's ended so sour. It's a shame that Ray Phoenix still has so much to offer at this level, but it's obviously been irreconcilable differences. Good luck to him. I imagine that everyone that's left today will be welcomed back into WWE in some form, whether that's in NXT or in the main roster. So therefore, the chances are I'm probably not going to watch them, but I hope they get their money from that company.
Agreed. Yeah. Like, I'll never, with these guys, like all three of them, Malachi, Miro, and Starks, there was high hopes for all of them. They all had like pretty decent peaks in AEW, but none of them really, you think, lined up. You look at Starks. If you look at what happened after All In last year, All In, All Out. Sorry, not last year, 2023. CM Punk left, and that leaves a main event slot. And there was sort of two wrestlers that really could have taken that. And you look at the two wrestlers that were really surging at the time up the card. You've got Ricky Starks, who was positioned opposite CM Punk. Of course, when Punk leaves and gets fired, I shouldn't say leaves, when he gets in a fight and then gets fired in disgrace, fired in disgrace, Starks goes and has that great match with Bryan Danielson. Is still a featured person on Collision. But then you look across the other side on Dynamite, the other guy that's surging up the card at the time is Swerve Strickland. And if I'm to put Swerve Strickland and Ricky Starks opposite each other, picking Swerve Strickland like 9 times 100%. Out of 10. There are some things that Starks can do on the mic that at the time Swerve hadn't shown. But you look at their return that they give in storylines and in the ring, and Swerve beats Starks out every time. What's an engaging program that Starks has had on the level of Hangman and Swerve? Hardly anything. There isn't. Isn't one. Maybe the bar for that's too high. Maybe that's because that's like one of the best matches. That's been one of the best feuds that has ever happened in AEW. So maybe you look at the two programs they've had with Bryan Danielson, who had the more engaging emotionally and storytelling and in-ring program with Bryan Danielson. I reckon it's Swerve. Like, I pick Swerve over Starks every time. And that's the cold, hard reality of this, right? Like, not everyone can be a featured player. And in AEW, you've got so many people that could be and could fill that role, including Miro, including Malachi Black, including Ricky Starks. And only some of them are going to get those positions. And I think they've made the right decisions in not giving it to these three guys.
Well, you talk about Swerve there, and like, what's the big difference between? I mean, because at the end, Swerve had some pretty shit feuds. I mean, remember he had that dude with all the tattoos on his face on his team and with the new Brock Lesnar. What was the new Brock Lesnar? Parker Boudreaux. Oh, yeah, he had all that shite, and it was rubbish. But Swerve kept plugging away, and he kept doing whatever he had to do. He was on TV every week.
Swerve did anything. He just did what he wanted to do. He was patient.
He didn't turn anything down. Whereas you look at Ricky Starks, and I guess we'll never know if this is true, but the idea that he turned down a split with Big Bill, bringing Lexi into it, which would have set the two of them on different paths, that's ridiculous. Why would you turn that down? What are you expecting to get? Or that is better than that. And I really, because like that part of that is probably why I really want to see Big Bill flourish with whatever happens now out of this, because I feel like Ricky Starks was almost blocking him a little bit of the way there. Yeah. And it's an attitude difference with these guys. I mean, another one, Miro. I mean, we keep being told he didn't want to take pins, he didn't want to take losses, he didn't want to look weak, he wanted to look unbeatable, and he did, and it was great when it worked. But you can't do that forever, otherwise you're just never going to lose, and nobody's going to benefit from it. So, where can you go from that? You can't go anywhere with that. And again, there's a theme here. Malachi Black, apparently he didn't want to take pins. We'll never know if that's true or not, but he didn't take many pins in his AEW career, did he? So maybe there's something to it.
and this is, look, can I say this about Swerve? I'm just looking back on his record. Like before, like I was really starting to like come round to him. Like around the first All In, I thought this guy should be doing a lot more than he is. And it was just after that they put him in the program with Hangman, and it blew up. But if you look at his work in the 6 months heading up to there, he lost to Dustin Rose. He lost in a tag match to Dustin Rose and Keith Lee. He lost to Nick Wayne. He lost to Darby Allin. He lost to Vikingo. He lost a lot of matches. He lost to Orange Cassidy international title match. He lost a lot of multi-man matches. He lost to Tanahashi on Collision. He lost a lot of matches. And then obviously he was one that was buried in the coffin at All In. And I was thinking at that point, they should be doing more with him. And that was really that was the point. I think, right, this guy has done everything for this company. He didn't have a match then for 6 weeks. He was off TV. He came back, Wrestle Dream, beat Adam Page, and then the rest is absolute history.
And the work that Hangman's done with him since, you'd have to think that Hangman has looked at Swerve and not just the effort, but the work ethic he has, and you know the amount of a team player he is, and that's probably contributed to Hangman's not willingness, but Hangman's maybe his willingness, but also the amount of effort Hangman put into getting Swerve over and to putting him over in their matches, because you know it takes two to tango, and the two of them gave 110% in every one of those matches they've had together.
If we can go in on that, again, we were talking about the differences between Swerve and Ricky Starks there. About 2 hours ago, when maybe less than that, when the news came through that it looks like he is gone. I remember having a conversation with one of my best mates, the only other person I talked to about wrestling that's not on the podcast or on social media. And he messaged me one morning after watching Dynamite and said, "Mate, Starks' promo last night was fucking awkward." And I replied, "Dude, I'll be honest, I feel like that about 90% of the time he holds a mic." He replied, "Thank you. He seems to go off on a tangent and just ramble. A lot of it makes fuck all sense." And then I replied with, "If he was up against MJF, it would be a bloodbath." And that's kind of how I felt about him. Like he never really, he had a couple of good moments on the mic. He also had a lot of times on the mic that weren't very good. And again, when you put him in a feud, like I remember he had a match, I think it was at Daly's place against Sammy Guevara. Now these are two people that usually, when they have good matches, they are up against someone who takes the lead in those matches. Someone else, it's a Danielson opposite them or someone along those lines. They were lost in the ring together. And I remember thinking, and Ricky Starks isn't that young. He's mid-30s. He's not a 24, 25-year-old. And I remember thinking the difference between him and, say, MJF at that point, who's 6-7 years younger than him, and just how MJF just commanded the ring and dominated the ring. Yes, his best matches at that point were up against Punk in a dog collar or Danielson. But MJF was someone that knew how to, like, his presence was there in the ring. And I never felt that with Starks. I always felt... And again, he's entitled to think exactly what he wants of himself and hold himself in as high esteem as possible, get your money, push for your place you think you deserve on the card. I just thought he was a mid-card guy who thought he was better than that, but I personally didn't see that in him.
The Ricky Starks thing that baffles me the most, though, is people talk about him like he's some young kid. He's older than Hangman.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. He's older than Hangman and Swerve, and that says it all, really. It's almost like he thinks... He has this strange sense of entitlement, and he feels like he's better than he is, for me. And that's the bottom line, That's it. He feels like he's better than he is, and there's other guys I would much rather have in the position than him if I was in charge.
What do you guys think about Miro and Malachi?
As I say, I think I like Miro, but I just feel like there's no way you can go with his character when he wants to be this unbeatable monster, and they should have. They should have pulled the trigger with Eddie Kingston at Grand Slam. I think he worked on his neck from memory in that match, and it looked like he was going to get something. And no, Miro won in the end, and we all thought it would come back around, and it didn't. And he really should have put Eddie over there for the TNT title. He didn't, and we just ended up with. I think he only did. I might be wrong on this, but I'm sure he. Yeah, but I'm sure was that only because he was injured and he was out for a while after that.
I'm not sure. It did feel like at the time. I liked the program with Sammy that they had. How they had Fuego del Sol get smashed. That
was a good match. Yeah, that was the Fuego one was good.
And Sammy was. It's hard to remember, but Sammy was genuinely beloved at that point. There was a lot going for him, and there was, I don't think, most people probably didn't think he would be. This guy's going to be an AEW main eventer, but he was certainly very popular and well deserving of that push. And the program with Miro was very good. But we're talking, it's 2021. It's nearly 4 years ago at this point. And a lot of water under the bridge for both guys. And with Miro, like in AEW, it's just not a territory for giants. Like you look at who are the ones that ultimately get pushed. It's not the super heavyweights. It's not the real big guys. It's these guys like Omega, Ospreay, Danielson. They're not giant blokes. And the role of the giants, Lance Archer, the role of Brian Cage, the role of, line them up, like list them out, you name them, is ultimately they get built up, and then they're used to put over one of these other guys. One of the guys who are the main event, who are the featured players in AEW. And it seems like, and you never know how true this is, but, he hasn't been on TV. You can take the hints that Miro didn't want to play that game. He didn't want to take that diminishing returns. I did see a tweet from someone just when I was scrolling before we started that he was a great territory giant, a great territory heel in the generation of 5-year contracts, which I think is perfect. Because, ideally he would move somewhere else after that initial run, and then 2022 he'd be off somewhere else doing a similar role, getting built up once again so that someone could chop him down.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a good description of him, really.
Yeah, he's sorry to whoever tweeted that. I didn't attribute it. It was, but I can't remember who it was. But I thought it was a great tweet.
It always felt like he was just happy staying at home as well, playing Call of Duty. I don't know. Maybe he had a lot of injuries, and I know he had relationship issues and stuff. But it just never felt like he was really fully invested. It felt like he was just, a nice option for him. Take a paycheck, turn up for a bit, and then just sit out and do whatever he wants.
He had 36 matches in AEW.
I'm surprised it was that many, to be honest.
And that includes 4 matches in 2022, 7 matches in 2023, and his last match again was at World's End 2023 against Andrade. So it's fair to say they haven't got bang for their buck when it comes to him.
At the end of the day, he gave Simon Miller the best day of his life at Wembley by beating the shit out of him. And he's one of his heroes, so fair enough. But yeah, not for me. Goodbye, Miro. Good luck, Ricky Starks, and good luck, Malachi Black. Because in fact, Malachi Black slightly less luck than the others because you held back 2 of my favourite wrestlers, in my opinion, by taking the spotlight of that group away from them. I can't wait to see what they do with Buddy and Brody. Honestly, he was, Joe. I don't know. I've never rated the kickboxing style either. I don't know if it's because I've done that to a half decent level myself in the past, but like I just can't take it seriously when someone's throwing the kind of moves that would knock someone out, and they're just not making a dent, and then he'll finish them with a kick out of nowhere, and it's just like, come on, man. He doesn't do enough wrestling moves for me. I know that sounds stupid, but that's just, I don't know. It grated on me the way he was, and I think he's shit on the mic as well.
I really liked him, and I think the way that he carried himself along with Buddy and Brody was incredible. Like the presence that they had when they were on was fantastic. And, he had some really good high points, like the trios match with the Elite. I really liked the cage match with FTR and Garcia. But, at the same time, he was just infuriating. Like, he'd be literally waving goodbye in the ring, and people would be like, oh, Malachi Black's leaving. And then he'd get on Instagram Live and be like, I don't know where you think I got this. Don't believe the dirt sheets. They're wrong. Then I'm not leaving anywhere. It's like, you were the one that was raving, mate. Like, we're just going off what you did. This isn't even reporting that we're looking at.
And he gets
with things like that.
He'd get to that point though where he looked like half interested, and you think, oh, okay, maybe we're going to see something a bit more here. And then next week it's like he just couldn't be arsed again. And it's he was very yo-yo, wasn't he, all the way through? But like I say, for me, the sky's the limit with Buddy. I'm Brody and Buddy, but if Buddy was to leave, I'd be absolutely fucking gutted. I think he's phenomenal. Honestly, the ceiling with that lad is. And we were saying last week about the two of them, Brody and Buddy. They're actually, good on the. They've got a bit of personality about them that has been hidden away because of the House of Black gimmick. I'm actually interested to hear them speak now and to see where they go, especially Buddy, because he seems like quite a funny guy when he's responding to trolls, messaging about his wife on Twitter.
Last thing I'll say on this is I think it's very obvious who the guys that left WWE are that sort of bought into what the vision of AEW is, and the guys
Yeah.
who got released or left and really just went there for a paycheck, and they thought they could have, potentially have a featured position. And it's pretty clear that Miro and Malachi fell into the second basket. Whereas you've got guys like Starks or more recently Ricochet, who they're like, I can see the vision and I want to be part of it and I want to put my own stamp on it. Whereas guys like Miro, Malachi, you can see from just the way they acted that they were there for selfish reasons, and fair enough. Like, I work in a job that I do for money. That's fair enough. You can do
exactly,
that. But, like, there's nothing wrong with that. And I probably wouldn't be doing it, for the fun of it. But at the same time, you can see the difference in returns when someone is bought in and when someone's not necessarily bought in.
I think the worst thing for me about it all is that at the time these guys got released, I remember quite a lot of them doing interviews on podcasts. I think Jericho had a few of them on, actually. And the way they spoke about the way they were treated by WWE and, how they felt like AEW was giving them a new chance. And they just, it felt like they would, when you look back, it felt like they were just talking shite, which they probably were. But it's a bit disappointed as a fan, exactly. Yeah. It's the business, isn't it, Yeah.
Well, look, we've bemoaned a bloated roster and people not getting airtime. So 4 people that were probably on relatively substantial contracts are probably all very happy that they're not part of AEW anymore. They'll be able to explore options elsewhere. And again, none of them have been on TV. And again, I'll bang the drum. I think 2024 was the most entertaining AEW has been. And that was a year that was very much not based around any of those that have left the company. So again, I'll say good luck to them. I hope that they get their money elsewhere. And thank you for the memories, I suppose.
Yeah, and as you were just talking about the people who left, and they were in, you've got the 2 categories of people who left WWE and came to AEW and either bought in or just came for the paycheck. Well, this past week we've seen another example of one. You get people throwing around the comments. I think from dickheads like Bischoff. Oh, people go to AEW to die for their careers to die. Fuck off. A great example again this week. Tony Storm. Fuck me. That whole segment was just fucking incredible. It was. Oh man, I didn't know where they were going with it, but that moment when the camera work was so good on this as well. That moment when after Luther comes out with the shoe and the camera pans back, and she grabs her hair, and then Tony just looks up and gives her that look. That was phenomenal stuff.
Beautiful.
That was really good stuff.
The word cinema shouldn't be used in wrestling because it's not cinema, but if anything comes close to it, it's what Tony Storm does.
100%. That was amazing. The camera work was so good there with that, because when they were focusing on Luther, I didn't even think about anything that was going on in the ring. So when they went back and just that look she gave her as she lifted up, and Mariah as well, the look on her face of complete dread and kind of horror as she sees Tony smiling at her. Oh, it's just great stuff. I cannot wait for that.
It's so good when you see wrestlers that are just in the zone creatively, and you can see it. Like, you've seen it for the last 12 months with Toni Storm. Like, she is just so locked in on her character, on her creative, and even if you don't necessarily love it, you can't help but appreciate the performance because they're just so in the zone. Ricochet's another one. Like, you can see right at the moment, that guy is just so dialed in to what he's doing. And with Toni Storm, like the last few weeks in particular have just been gold. Every single segment, she has done something where she's taking these creative risks and they're just paying off, and the audience is eating it up and reacting to it all. You love seeing it.
Brilliant. We had 2 this week, actually. We had that one, but also we had the Tony coming out as Mariah as well in midweek, which again was just fucking brilliant.
So good. Really
hamming it up.
What do you think? What do you think's going to happen with that one? Because if we transition into Grand Slam now, like this is a great card, and it's not a predictable card as well, which always adds so much to it for me. When you genuinely look at the matches and think, I actually don't know who's going to win some of these matches, which is it's great.
I think she's going to lose.
Seriously.
Yeah, I don't. The only reason I don't think is the only part of me that thinks she will win is because, and someone else pointed this out to me on the Discord. I can't remember who it was. Sorry, but basically, if I don't think Buddy's winning, and I think
No.
Ospreay and Omega will win. So I feel like they're going to have to give an Australian a win. And when you get to that, and if that is the main event, the feel-good factor of Tony winning would just be phenomenal. But I don't know. I think Mariah's got something going. I know I said this a couple of weeks ago, but Mariah can act, as we've seen this week. And I still think that maybe I'm just hoping for this to come true because it would be phenomenal. But when Megan Bain debuted, that was some of the most atrocious cardboard pretend acting I've ever seen from her. This whole, who's she? She hasn't got a graphic. Tony, I've just got a feeling, and as I say, maybe I'm hoping it, that Megan Bain is going to help Mariah somehow and probably beat the shit out of Luther as well.
I can see that, but I don't think it's going to. I think the hometown factor just overrides everything for me. Like in me plotting it out and looking at this card, like this has been set, this whole program, like you think of who did they get to do the advertising for Grand Slam from the start? It's been Toni Storm. Like this whole thing has been set up to climax at Grand Slam so that in front of her home crowd, probably main eventing the show, literally, she said, this is the arena, like the first arena I ever went to watch a wrestling show. She's gonna take home the big one. She's gonna get her revenge on her biggest foe, and she's gonna take home the big one. And you can kind of see potentially they could go other ways, but at the same time, like I don't know, that hometown factor and having the crowd behind it and just so hot for it, that just seems to be. And she ultimately, Toni Storm is the ace of that division. Like Mercedes and Tony are the two biggest stars of that division. I can't see them not having her win at Grand Slam.
She should win. I want her to win. Like as a viewer and as a fan, I wanted to win. But I don't know, man. I've just got a feeling that they're gonna do that same bullshit that Triple H did with Cody on the first WrestleMania, and be we'll continue the story.
Yeah,
I don't.
Look, if they're coming back in a year's time, I don't think my personal theory is they're never going to come back to Australia again. But if they're coming back in a year's time and Toni Storm's still chasing Mariah, I'll be there for it. But I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately.
I hope not. I hope not.
I mean, let's touch on that about them not going back. Ticket sales. What are the numbers? I've tried to look. It's not the easiest map to navigate when I've looked online to try and figure out, because WrestleTix seems to be on point with everything. They've not gone near estimating what they've sold for this one. Does it look like they've pretty much filled this little arena?
Yeah, I think there's about 11,000, 12,000 tickets out or something with, they've got the last minute sale, last minute push to just, fill up the final seats that are remaining. But this is an arena that I think holds like 13,000 or so. So it's going to be pretty much out. And what other show, and I've been saying this for forever now, what other shows this year is AEW going to do that will have more than 10,000 people?
Exactly. Very few.
Arlington, Texas, all in. Maybe the Grand Slam in New York. Maybe Forbidden Door in.
Forbidden Door will get about 18, I reckon. This is already going to be one of their top 10 crowds of all time, easily.
Yeah,
it's going to be like seventh, I think.
I think the only problem really was that they. No, I was just going to say that they originally shot for a stadium and changed. That's the only bit of negative perception on all of this. That and the fact that because it was a stadium show, as we spoke about, people assumed it was going to be a pay-per-view. I did, and it transpires now that it's basically Collision.
They certainly charge stadium prices for tickets.
I was going to touch on it. These training prices, I've had a look since we've been on the call. There's tickets that are still $350 that aren't even like near the front. What's this pricing about? Like unless your minimum wage is $60-$70 an hour and I'm missing out on something. But these prices are astronomical.
They always are. They always are, man.
These are bad. I've not seen. There's a few nosebleeds left, and I mean there's a very few, and they're still $95. Ones in the upper tier are still going for. Well, I'm just going on it now. There's like ones in the corner, that are like the fifth row back. They're $193 still, and they're not good seats. They're not bad. There's no bad seats when you're in an arena this size, but these are not like prime seats that you dream about, and they're still nearly $200. That's incredible.
Couple things I'll say when you're doing the conversion in your head. The Aussie dollar is a bit weaker than the US dollar, so that's $100 in Australia sorry, $100 in America is the equivalent of about. Wait, my conversion. I'm getting confused in my head.
The English pound is basically it's $1.50p. So it's half of what it is in the UK.
$1 buys 60 US cents or thereabouts. Yeah. So you've got to do a bit of a conversion down. There's like an inflation. There's a sense of inflation that you get when you look at an Australian thing and it says dollars and but at the same time, like it is expensive, right? Like it's still the prices that they've got are still expensive, and that's kind of normal in Australia for international acts coming to Australia. We're a very long way away. Logistics here are bloody horrific. It's expensive. We do have strong minimum wage laws, which is great, but it does mean when you factoring out all the expenses for these sorts of things, for the, for setup, for pull down, for, the people that are doing the catering, all the people who are lining, doing the merches, the people checking the tickets, you got to pay them a fair wage. That's the right way to do things. But it does make the ticket price a bit expensive, and they probably did hope to sell a few more. I think they did a deal with the Queensland government, that's the Queensland state government, to get them up to Brisbane, which is probably the reason they went with Brisbane. There's no logical reason you'd pick Brisbane other than over Sydney or Melbourne unless you're getting paid for it. Because if you want to fill a stadium, you want to go to the biggest markets, and Brisbane is not the biggest market.
No.
But so they're probably getting a pretty decent return on that, but they definitely ended up with less people than they wanted. But if you go back, if you rewind and never announce this as a stadium show, never announce it without saying it's just a TV special, and just book it for what it actually ended up being, people would be over the moon with it. Like, this is an incredible TV card, right? Yeah. But the problem was the expectation was set so much higher in that we're going to pack a stadium. So to do that, we're going to have a stadium level show. It is Grand Slam, which has always been on TV, but they never said it was Collision and Dynamite Grand Slam, which is what they've always advertised before. So the perception was this is going to be like some sort of special broadcast, some sort of special pay-per-view show. And the reality is that it's going to be a collision, a very stacked collision, but it's going to be a collision. And like, I feel I'm really excited for it because I've never been to an AEW show, and I know lots of people feel this way in Australia who I've talked to because I've organised to meet up with friends and stuff like that at this. Like, we're all excited, but there's a part of us that does feel a little bit let down because it's like, this isn't necessarily what was promised originally. This isn't what was pitched. This is our first AEW show. We're not going to see Hangman. We're not going to see Swerve. We're not going to see Orange Cassidy. Like, these are things that you kind of want to see when you're an AEW fan and haven't seen them live. And you've been thinking about it and hoping for it for 5 years at this point. But at the same time, it's a stacked card. There's a lot of awesome things on it. Ospreay and Omega teaming up is going to be incredible. Buddy versus Okada, that's kind of like the good version of Timu Omega Okada, right? You're not getting Omega Okada, but you're getting like a good discount knockoff version of it. It's not necessarily like the cheapest version you can do, but it's kind of like the mid range. Like the second level of when you go to the shops and you're looking at the different pastas. There's like the absolute bottom tier, and then there's the premium handcrafted. This is like the middle of that. So pretty happy with that. And then of course, as we talked about, the Tony Storm Mariah May, which has been hugely built to and hugely promoted specifically for this show.
Here's the dullest question I'm ever going to ask, and this is really dull, but this is out of genuine intrigue. They're in Texas for Dynamite Tuesday. What way will they fly to Australia? Will they go across the North Pacific or all the way across Europe and Asia so they're above land the whole time?
No, they'll go the Pacific for sure. That's the way to get to America. When you're flying to America, you go via LA typically.
So how long is that flight then? So say, Sydney to LA flight. How long is that?
14 hours. It's a long way. Like, I had a friend who he was looking to. He lives in Oklahoma, right near Texas, and he was looking to. He's been to both all-ins so far, and he was always like, whenever they have an Australian show, I'm gonna go. And I was like, are you sure, mate? Like, it's a long way away. Oh yeah, I went to the UK twice. It's not the same. Like, you guys are on the same side of the world. We're on a different side of the world. If you like drill a hole through the world, you will end up popping out from America. You'll end up popping out somewhere in Australia. Like, it's a long, long way away, and it's a long flight. The logistics are hard. They've had to do Dynamite early so they can make sure they get everyone here in time. Like,
Yeah,
it's a long way.
The Dynamite thing is, like, baffles me because, like, this is the only, like, say, as someone who's not invested in it because I'm not going, so I'm not going to be as bothered as you are about it. I'll just be watching it on TV. I don't understand why they're doing it for a 2-hour collision. It doesn't make any sense. Like, surely they should have done maybe a Dynamite taping as well with this, because when we had Grand Slam in New York, it was Dynamite and Collision. So for this, you're going to get a 2-hour Collision show taped, because unless they go 3 hours, who knows?
they're
Maybe they will.
definitely going to go over 2 hours for this show. I think they've already alluded to that as well, because it's not got a time. Apparently, it's not got a time slot schedule, so it's definitely going to exceed 2 hours comfortably. I think.
Well, hopefully they'll go close to 3 hours then, because aside from that, you're going to get Ring of Honor tapings from the sound of it, from the people who are also going. But a Collision taping or Grand Slam and Ring of Honor isn't as good as. Isn't the same feeling as when New York have Grand Slam and they have a Grand Slam Dynamite and a Grand Slam Collision all on the all taped on the same night. So it's a bit strange with the schedule in that way, and that's one of the things that does make me wonder when they say, "Oh no, it was always going to be a TV." Really, the schedule seems a little bit strange on that.
You're lying to us.
It's covering their asses.
Yeah,
and the last people that I know of who flew that route to LA ended up on an island for 6 seasons. So who knows? And if any of you cunts out there listening suggest that you hope Jericho lands on an island, go fuck yourself.
I'd watch that TV show for the record if they made a show out of that.
Oh god, yeah.
Lost AEW edition. Fucking Miro and Starks stuck in the jungle somewhere. No, the card does look fantastic, and like
it does.
I would challenge anyone to take a 5-match card from anything anybody has put out. Never mind not just WWE, but even most of AEW's 5-match cards, and put it up against that. I would say this will come out on top most of the time.
Everything about this, I'm invested, and that's what I want from AEW, because AEW have me when I'm invested in them. I've never been invested in wrestling before. Maybe WrestleMania 6, when I got WrestleMania 6 on Christmas Day 1990, and I made us cancel all our plans, and I made my mum watch the Hogan Warrior main event. I couldn't watch it because I was too emotionally drained, so I hid behind the sofa and made my mum describe the dullest match in history. But damn God, I was invested in the Warrior winning that, because I always hated Hogan. Anyway, this I'm invested in. Mariah May Tony it's just been the best thing. The tag match, we get off. I think Fletcher and Teshestra are going to win, because I think this will sprinkle the seeds for Ospreay v Omega at Revolution. Okada Matthews, that match could just be. I mean, I love Buddy so much. I really want this to stand out more than anything. Brisbane Bull's going to fucking rule, and
that's the
Mercedes and Harley. Everything on this card, I am so invested in. I won't. I mean, no one knows who I really am. Anyway, I changed my shift on Sunday to work on the later match than the early one, because I know I'm staying up watching this, and I'm going to have a couple of beers when I'm watching it. So I was like, I'm meant to be in the office at 10 in the morning. That's not happening if I'm up till 4. So I've switched with someone to work on the other game. So because this is gonna be fucking brilliant.
You mentioned Mercedes and Harley. How good has the build to that been? That's been so good.
That's what I was just going to say. I'm going over the Australians, and I completely forgot about Harley. She's been phenomenal. Yeah. Like she's literally. I mean, we say this every week on here, but like she's one of the few, people in wrestling, full stop, who whenever she's on TV, you stop what you're doing.
I love her.
She's incredible. The build has been amazing, and like she's so funny, and like she's like even the segments in midweek when they had a few audio issues, and she just kind of rolled with it. She's so fucking good.
And she's going to get the mother of all, like 2.999 hope spots in that match.
Yeah, definitely.
Incredible. You're going to have a molten crowd. Like I said before, this is going to be a packed arena with full of people who have never seen AEW before. Like and have been wanting to see AEW for years. Like it's going to be molten hot. And they're going to see that, and they're going to be so behind Harley, and they're going to pop so hard for that spot. It's going to be, that hope spot in that match, even if the match is only 5 minutes, it probably should only be 5 minutes, like an Indian Mercedes getting absolutely showered with hate and booze and people swearing at her, calling her a cunt and calling her a wanker and calling her all these things. But it's going to have the best hope spot in the middle of it.
I can't wait. It's like, just when you're talking about it now, you kind of like start to kind of just refresh the excitement that the card actually gives, and it does. Like, it's that, as you say, that match is going to be brilliant. And I don't think Harley in ring has improved so much, but she's not great.
This is a big moment for her. She's improved a lot, honestly. This is a big moment for her. Again, I don't think this match will go long. I'm hoping it goes longer than 5 minutes. 2 women's matches on the card implies it probably won't. But I hope they get 8 to 10 minutes, just so they can actually showcase in that time that this is not just a very funny, very attractive woman. This is someone that can fucking go in the ring with the best women's wrestler in the world and can actually have a match that will make you say, hang about, she actually is the full package, because I think she is. I think the way she's come on in the last 12 months is meteoric. She's been incredible how much she's come on, from some very clumsy matches when I first saw her that looked like she didn't know her way around the ring well, to the last couple of matches thinking she can actually at some point have like a top level match. And again, home crowd, best women's wrestler in the world, this could be the opportunity for it.
It's got to be she's such a hard worker as well, because as I think I said before, I didn't even know she was a wrestler when she was in QTV. I thought she was just, on there as an extra or something. And it turns out she's not only a wrestler, but she's working her ass off every week, training with all these. I mean, she trains with Mercedes. She's always putting pictures on Mercedes of them training. So, and everyone who trains with her says how much she's improving as well and how much work she's putting in. So I have no doubt that she'll get there. But there's a lot of people saying she should take the win now, even if it's a lucky win and lose the title. Not for me. I think it's way too soon. But I think Mercedes can drag her to a really good match. Few hope spots, like you say, and just give her that rub off Mercedes. That's something that most wrestlers, dream of, and she can take that and run with it.
Probably shouldn't call Mercedes all those things that I said earlier, but you should definitely boo her.
She'll take that on board. She was basically called a cunt on Collision, let's be honest. So I think she can take it in good sense. She's an amazing heel. A lot of people, again, I think the heel work that she does, the schwammy, cheesy WWE light gimmick and stuff, it's all done by design. It was done by design from day one. She joined AEW as a heel, just it was in Boston, Massachusetts. She's a fantastic character. I'm sure she's heard a lot worse. She's never ever breaks like any kind of character with everything she does. She'll take any abuse she gets on the chin. I've no doubt about that. Mercedes fucking rules, and I just hope that, again, the fact that her and Harley are training together gives me even more hope for this match. But I'll be watching this one with a bit of a nervous edge to it, because I want this match to succeed so much. The other matches I know will succeed. This one I want to, because I think it's a big moment for Harley, because we know that when Mercedes is on form, that her matches are always going to be as near as it could possibly get for Dave Meltzer, given a US women's match 5 stars. With Harley, again, big moment for Harley. Really hope this match knocks it out of the park.
It's close to Japan, Australia a little bit, isn't it? So maybe Dave Meltzer will give it another half star.
To Dave Meltzer, it's probably the same place. So yeah.
Yeah, you can tell that people like Harley as well. Like the women in that locker room like Harley. You see Mercedes training with her and stuff like that. They want her to get better because they can see it. Like they can see it. They can see the package, and they're keen for her to. Mercedes will be keen to give Harley that moment and make something out of this match because she likes Harley and because she can see the opportunity with this home crowd. And
it's also the fact. It's also the fact that they like. It's same with any of us are probably the same. When you see someone who's actually putting in the effort and wants to improve, you want to help them. So, like, I'm sure Mercedes and the other women's wrestlers in the locker room are going to be looking at it and seeing the amount of effort she's putting in, and the fact that she really wants to do this, and putting in the extra work to help her.
100%. And this works for Mercedes. Look, Mercedes said she wanted to revolutionize women's wrestling, and part of doing that is building up this division, because again, I think the AEW women's division is fucking brilliant. From everyone that's on the card here, Willow, Statlander, there's so many people I want to see on TV. There's so many people that are coming up that I really like seeing, like Aminata. Penelope Ford shows out when she's given the airtime now as well. And this means a lot to Mercedes as well. She wants to bring this division to the forefront. This is the biggest TV event, the joint biggest probably they've done. It's up there with the original Grand Slam as a free TV event for me personally. And she's 40% of the matches are women's matches. Now that's not AEW's go-to method at all. So this is a big show for the women. Two showcase matches. Probably the two matches that are going to have the crowd like most invested as well, to be perfectly honest. So So it's a big match all round this one. I'll be watching this one, winning them more than I usually, really rooting for them that they knock this one out of the park because obviously the potential's there. Just hope the execution's on point.
So we've spoke about the two women's matches in quite a bit of depth there, but you did touch before on Omega Ospreay possibly leading to them facing off at Revolution. Is that what you think? Is that where you think it's going? Because I think that's a long play, to be honest myself. I think that's 2026.
I just think I'm looking ahead to that Revolution card now and thinking, so we've got Cope v Mox as the main event. The TNT title match is probably going to be Daniel Garcia v Adam Cole. These are not my matches. They're not the matches that get my juices flowing. Like, neither of those two matches scratch the surface to any of these 5 matches for my emotional investment that's on Grand Slam. And that's a big thing for me, how much I care. I went to Revolution last year in North Carolina. I was invested in 80% of those matches. And the ones I wasn't, I still had a good time with because it was so good. Revolution needs some high-profile matches to come out of this because at the moment, the main 2 male titles, the men's titles, those matches don't do much for me. I don't care for Garcia v Adam Cole, and the only thing that comes out of Mox v Cope is Christian's interference. Is Christian going to leave there as world champion? Because there's a hell of a lot more chance he will than Copeland will. But neither of them do much for me. So therefore, I'm thinking, what are the matches that have got the real? This is Revolution always succeeds. It's always an amazing pay-per-view. They need the bigger matches, and that's just why I'm thinking. Look, there doesn't need to be a heel in this match. It could be 2 faces, but it could be they get a bit pissed off at each other here, and they want to resolve it then. I'm not sure. I want that match to be fair at Revolution because I feel that card's going to need something that good.
My thought with the Ospreay Omega sort of deal would be that those guys would continue as a team through the. Well, it's my autumn, so your guys' spring over there. Your spring, through the multi-man matches, and the Ospreay Omega team would add some extra people in for Anarchy in the Arena and potentially Blood and Guts as they, keep Omega away from Okada before All In happens. If for that to happen with a singles match at Revolution, I'm not sure. My thought was that we'd end up getting Ospreay and Fletcher and Omega and Takeshita at Revolution as 2 separate singles matches.
Oh, okay.
That's where I'm thinking. I'm thinking we're going to get Omega Takeshita 3. No, sorry, 2. Is it 2 or 3?
It's 2. There was a tag match. He won the trios match and then he won the singles match All Out. Because
we all know what Tony's like when things get in the way. He likes to stick to the landing. And that's where they were heading, weren't they? Before Kenny's illness, it was he was. I mean, God, he was determined to stick to the landing that much that we ended up with the Golden Jets treading water for a couple of months, which we got some fucking dog shit out of that. But
I think you're right. Like I'm going to retract immediately on Omega and Ospreay and say, what you said makes more sense. So I won't ask them to delete it. I'll be a man and take it on the chin. I was chatting shit there. Fletcher and Ospreay makes sense again, but I think that match needs a stipulation this time round. I think it's worthy of having a stipulation, but what suits them? Nothing's like a no DQ doesn't really do anything. I think it needs, again, I might go to every time says, a dog collar suits those two, but I think it needs something quite brutal by this point.
That'd be a good one, a dog collar.
Brutal. I can't think of anything else.
Friendship bracelet.
Fucking hell. John Wick's dog. Fucking hell. I look, at the end of the day, Revolution's going to sell itself anyway with MJF Hangman, so we don't need to worry about any of that.
That's true. Of course we get MJF Hangman.
That's going to have us all invested. So, and that could be the turning point which pushes Hangman onto All In. Who knows? The only reason I said earlier about Omega is that I still think, well, not necessarily think. When I say think, a lot of the time, it's something I want. What I want is Ospreay 2026 Wembley to take the title off Kenny Omega. I feel like that is the perfect moment. Ospreay not only winning the title at Wembley, but beating Kenny Omega. Fucking hell, you can't get much better than that. That's why I'm pushing for that anyway. But MJF Hangman. Fucking hell, that's going to be some match there.
And what else are we going to get? Like, looking ahead to that now, then I'm looking at this card now, thinking there's a lot of people on this card at Grand Slam at the weekend that have to be part of Revolution. So I don't know. Do we get the rubber match between if Storm wins the title? Do we get the rubber match between those two at Revolution? Because there's no one else really that you want to shoehorn in. It's less than a month to Revolution now. So
look, if we're going with my again, what I want, not necessarily what I think. Of Megan Bain being involved, maybe that's when she brings Megan Bain in and she takes the title back off Tony. Yeah. Which I don't really like short reigns that much, but I actually wouldn't be against that because that would then give Tony another lease of life. You know, I'm sure she would go away and work on something else again. And if she was the one to take down Megan Bain eventually, I'd be all for that. But I want Megan Bain to have this long term, as I've said before, post Mariah. I want Megan Bain to have this Vader-like run where she just beats everybody. Because she is huge. She should be beating everybody. Vader 90 is what I got looked back to. And when Ric Flair eventually beats her, now obviously I don't want Ric Flair to beat her. Fucking hell, that'd be wrong. But if we have a face, kind of, eventually after a long line of Megan Bain demolishing people, if we have a face then be the one to topple her, that's just one of them feel good moments, really. You know, when you can get one of the company favourites, and if Tony was to then maybe take a step back for a bit and come back, she could be the one, or we could have any one of a number of the Willow would be probably the most people's choice, wouldn't she? Or even Statlander,
I don't know what it is, but I feel like there's definitely some sort of long-term plan with Megan Bain. You think back for how long we've been hearing about Megan Bain and AEW, and how long those two have been linked. Like, they've chosen to debut her at the time they have, and they probably held off on it for quite a while. So the reason for that is they've got some sort of plan. Maybe it is what you said, Anne. I'm not 100% sure, but maybe it is. But I think there's definitely some sort of plan in place for her.
I'm probably talking shit, but it's just Mariah can act, and that was some of the worst acting I've ever seen. That was like, Halle Berry and Catwoman kind of acting. It was awful. The whole Tony, where's the graphic? It's like Tony, where's the graphic? Like, come on. And the way she debuted and the way she played on it seemed too hammed up to me. Maybe she was just having an off day, and it's got nothing to do with it. I don't know, but again, it's one of them things I would like to see in my fantasy booking head. But no, with Swerve Ricochet, we'll probably have that as well. That's another one. Maybe will we have a payoff, or is that when maybe the Hurt Syndicate get involved, which I think we assumed would happen down the line? Because Swerve has to get a win over. Match. Yeah, just
that feels like a dog collar match. It's fucking Revolution. The subtitle Revolution dog collar. Everyone gets a fucking dog collar for Revolution. It's just 9 dog collar matches. Fuck it. But no, that match suits a dog collar as well.
It does.
Yeah, they don't tend to like 2 stipulations per pay-per-view works for me. I like a couple of gimmick matches. I like ones that I know are going to get filthy. Dog collar just suits everything. I don't know, like maybe they want to keep everyone out because Fletcher keeps having interference. So maybe we end up having Ospreay and Fletcher in a cage match or something where they're confined, and then we have Swerve and Ricochet in a brutal dog collar match.
I hadn't thought about them in a dog collar match before this, and I don't know if it'll happen or not, but I kind of love the idea of seeing Ricochet, seeing what Ricochet would do in a dog collar match, because in some ways it limits him so much, but at the same time I feel like he's so creative that I would trust him to come up with some really interesting things. So, even if they made it just a strap match or something, if they weren't going to go the whole way with the dog collar, or I'd be keen to see what he could do when he's got those sorts of like limitations, so to speak.
Definitely. It was again. There's a few spots you could imagine that will be quite brutal in that match. Like Swerve could drag him around, and I want that now. I need it. We've got to put that out. I'm willing that match into existence now.
Yeah, that's all I want now. Oh, can we go back a month so I can put it on my Christmas list? Fucking hell.
I'm looking ahead to other people that are on this card again at the weekend. This mini super card as such, and thinking who else on there has something else to look forward to for Revolution. And I'm thinking again, we'll stay with the Australia theme here. But Buddy Matthews again, I'm not expecting him to beat a card. I think the match will rule, but I think it'll probably start the show. I don't think he'll win. I do like the thought of him and Brody going after the tag titles relatively soon, because I just think Lashley and Shelton against Brody and Buddy Matthews could be fucking brilliant.
The only thing I'd have with that is, do you have that match so soon? Because it feels like you've got to have the Hurt Syndicate establish themselves a little bit more before you run them up against, and maybe you use Brody and Buddy to establish them as just like, look at these big bastards that they just took down. But they're so, Brody and Buddy are so good that you kind of hope that there's more than just them getting used to establish
100%.
Oh God, I hope so. I really hope so, because there's been a couple of guys who have took a real liking to, and then they, like Brian Cage, for instance, is the main one where I love Brian Cage, but he's just used as that guy, isn't he, just to put people over now?
Yeah.
And I really don't want Buddy and Brody to be used like that, because I think the potential of these guys is just incredible. And then even looking down the line, you could eventually have a split, and the two guys could go at it, and there's so much you can do with these guys. But I agree with you. I don't think you can. I don't think you take the titles off the Hurt Syndicate yet. I feel like it's way too soon. I feel like Private Party were really disappointing as champs to me, but the way they've been booked was shocking. So I don't really want to blame them too much. I feel like you need a run of a good tag team, a good tag run now of a team, whoever it is. It's the Hurt Syndicate at the moment, so we'll go with them.
Revolution's a big show. That you need a tag title match there with Gravitas. You can't have them up against, again, a team that's a foregone conclusion. You need them to have an opponent that feels it feels like there's a possibility they're going to lose, or the match is going to rule. And you're right. I don't want to see, because obviously they lost last week. I don't want it to be that the Hounds of Hell end up losing a lot of matches. They are naturally over at the moment. They should have a tag title run at some point this year, I think, because I think they're just going to keep getting more and more over because they're just so likable and so good in the ring. I don't think. Do you think? Well, the FTR
After beat FTR, and then maybe that could contribute to FTR losing the shit and turning heel.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah,
be down for that.
I think FTR would get a great match out of them as well. Well,
actually,
I say
FTR,
get a great match.
They referenced going after the tag titles last week as well, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. That's the only reason they said it, because it was a very arrogant statement as well, wasn't it? We're the best of all time. We've done this. We've done that. We want the tag. Yeah, and I don't even reading too much into it because it's something I want, again, common theme. But it just felt very arrogant to me, very heelish, and I would love to see them go as faces, lose, and then maybe that's when we get the join Mox for whatever reason.
I'm gonna go with some breaking news here, in that we have now confirmed the entire AEW Revolution card. We have Colt v John Moxley. We have Will Ospreay against Carl Fletcher in a cage match. We've got Kenny Omega v Takeshita for the international title. Mariah May v Tony Storm in a rubber match. A dog collar match between Ricochet and Swerve Strickland. FTR facing the Hurt Syndicate for the tag titles. Yeah. Boom, we've done it. We'll come back to this. This is going to be the card.
I'll buy that today.
Do you think any more matches get added to Grand Slam then this week, or do you think they're going to stick with the 5?
It depends on the length. If they have got the license to go longer, I wouldn't be surprised if there's one more match, or maybe they go high profile on a segment of such. So you have an MJF over there, or someone who can break up the matches. Because
I fucking hope so.
I'd love to see a promo. I'd love to see like an MJF promo or something like that. Just as and this is purely self-serving, right? Like, what are the things I like to see on an AEW TV show? I love the matches. I love the heat. I love the story. But I'd love to see like a promo. One of their good promo guys get on the mic and cut something live in ring. If it's Hangman, if it's MJF, I'd love that. That would be fantastic.
I think I'm looking at how the card's going to be, because I do think they need to break it up, because all 5 matches are going to have a lot of energy to them. So
what running order do you think they go with it?
Pardon?
What running order do you think they go with it?
I'm looking at it now. I think for 100%, I think that Mariah and Tony finishes the show. I think that's a given.
Who do you think starts?
I would imagine Omega Ospreay.
Yeah, I think Omega Ospreay has to start.
Particularly because you think about the structuring of this.
Yeah.
They're going off after the All-Stars. If they want to try and capture, maybe make 50 fans or something out of this giant lead-in they're supposedly going to do, then you put on what is the most athletic. These are these are fans of sport. What is the most? And they're coming off the dunk contest as well. So these are guys who you want to have Will Ospreay in front of. Like, you want to have Kenny Omega in front of. That's the kind of stuff that if I was going to predict what makes a casual fan, who knows what actually makes a casual fan, because like I had the girls from Tunnel Talk on, and they became fans during the pandemic because of the best friends. And no one says that that the best friends make casual fans, but this is people that did become casual fans because of that. But if I was to predict what the people who watch the dunk contest are going to like most on this card, it would be Omega Ospreay. So I put that first.
Yeah,
I think
to
that's
an absolutely frothing crowd. Like you imagine what it's going to be like, because Ospreay's got local support. He was a mainstay in the Australian scene at one point. He's done a lot in Australia. He's going to have the crowd absolutely blowing the roof off when he comes out. And Kenny Omega's Kenny Omega. Like, he's the god of professional wrestling, and he's only wrestled a few times in Australia. I've been lucky to see him once in a tag match, and he's going to absolutely blow the roof off with Ospreay.
Well, and that match as well, you can't put that match anywhere else on the card for me, because if you put that match, you're not going to put it in the middle. It just doesn't fit in the middle. And you're not going to put it before the main event, which has to be, as you say, Mariah Tony. It would kill Mariah Tony. We've seen that before with AEW scheduling. Sometimes is that, like, you put a match like that before another match and the crowd are just dead, they're wiped out. So get this one on first. They have to do that. I'd then go for Buddy Okada second, to be honest, myself.
I'm sitting there just staring at it, thinking, what segment could they put in? What matches require like a bit of a breather from actual in-ring action? I'll say probably the street fight, because that could get quite brutal and gory. So you could probably do with 20 minutes from that bell finish into the next one. So therefore, MJF comes something in between, someone who can get the crowd up, that makes it enjoyable, that people want to see. And MJF's that person.
Absolutely. And yeah, he's never wrestled in Australia. I don't know if he's ever wrestled in Australia.
I'm checking as we speak. My trusty old cage match.
And so having him cut a promo, AEW fans would love that. Like,
the crowd just rip Australia, wouldn't it be great?
He could say so many things. There's so many things he could say.
He did more references in there.
It's basically the Australian version of what he did in the UK last year, right? Like,
he has wrestled once. No, but why did that? I typed in Australia, and it's given me the clusterfuck battle royal that he was in 2019, but that was in New Jersey. So sorry, I don't know why that even came up. Oh, because someone called Australian Suicide was in the match. Yeah, Australian Suicide was in the match. But then MJF comes out, he does that. Hangman comes out. Then you've got Hangman as well.
Yep.
Oh, please,
look, this is the dream scenario.
There you go. MJF segment. Hangman interrupts him. They kick off. There's a brawl. They're separated by everyone. It's got the crowd up. It's given us a chance to breathe after a lot of blood's been shed in a street fight. So I
there you go. And just to make it the dream card for you, Sam, to give you the ones that you're missing that you want. Right in the with Mox. Mox is taking a beating, and who comes out the crowd? Orange Cassidy in a leather jacket. Orange punch on Cope, and we get the turn that we on here have been saying we want for a long time.
If he did an orange punch on Cope, I'd be cheering him. I'll tell you that.
I think you wouldn't be the only one, to be honest.
No, a lot of people. There's 14 people on this card. 14 wrestlers so far are actually wrestling. 13 of them I'm so invested in to varying degrees. Like Claudio was my favorite in WWE when he was Cesaro. I still really enjoy Moxley. I love Hardy. I love Mercedes. I love Mariah. I love Tony. The only person I don't have that for is Edge. Is Copeland. He's the only one that I don't have that connection with. He's the only person I'm not looking forward to seeing on this entire card.
He's a strange one for me, because I was never a big Edge fan at all. I was always of the opinion that Christian was the better talent. He was funnier. I just preferred watching more, and he never got the push, did he? I felt like Edge was being pushed in the face all the time, and Christian was just like there, and I could appreciate him and be entertained. So I wasn't really as hyped as a lot of people when he was coming to AEW, but when he appeared, I have to hold my hands up. Like, for the first 3-4 months or whatever it was, he was brilliant. Really impressed me. It was a hell of a lot better than I expected. I think the only negativity really for me is that I just wanted someone a bit more important to be involved when he made the return at the pay-per-view. It just felt like it didn't really. Someone else should have been in that spot for me.
My take on Edge, I was actually a fan of his before he retired. I really enjoyed what he did. I became the first wrestling feud that I ever got into was him versus Batista in 2008, which is pretty random, but it is what it was. It was a match between the Great Khali and Batista that got me into wrestling, which is how I was born to be a wrestling fan. That I found that to be something that would hook me in. But the thing, my take on Edge is that, and Cope, is that he is great when he's got a bit of levity to him, like when he's got a bit of a sense of humor to him. That's when he's at his best. It's when he pushes to be like this uber serious, grizzled, gritty guy. That's when he
Definitely.
it never works. It's never worked ever in the WWE, in AEW. It's never worked when he's been like that. But when he's got a bit of a sense of humor to him, when he's got a bit of levity to him, some happiness, some joy in his soul, or even some cheekiness to him when he's a heel, because like that rated R superstar in the WWE, he was. He was a bit of a chicken shit, but he was just cheeky, and he had a bit of a sparkle in his eye, a bit of a twinkle in his eye, and that was like he was enjoyable as that character. Whereas when he's like uber serious, ultra gritty, Mr. Marlon Brando, I am a great actor, and I am saying these lines because I am doing great acting. It just never works. It's never worked.
I really enjoyed his Cope Open run because I feel like that. Just because I feel like that's how the TNT title should be used. It should be defended weekly, which is why the Garcia run at the moment is fucking awful for me. And he had some good matches against different styles of opponents. I just don't want him in the title scene at all. And I know he's not going to. Well, I say I know he's not going to win the title. I assume he's not going to win the title, but I just don't. I don't know. I felt like we were building up momentum with other guys, and then he just kind of dropped in the middle of parachuted in the middle of all this, and the other guys got pushed to the side a little bit. Now, I don't know if that's maybe just to pad it out a little bit more, or if it was just always the intention to have him involved in this when he come back from his injury. But it just, I don't know, that was just something that knocked me off a bit, really, when I was, I felt like they were on a roll and things were looking really interesting, and then that happened. As not for me. But if Dan was here, Dan would be saying how much he loved it because he's a big fan. So, I guess it's the issue with trying to appeal to so many different types of fans. Yeah, we asked on the Discord some questions as usual. It was a bit late, so we didn't get that many, but we did get a couple of funny ones that people have put in there for you, Sam. So I'll run through some of these. The first one was from GWalk87. It's the best question anyone's ever asked us. Who'd win in a Hell in a Cell match between Harold Bishop and Alf Stewart?
I want to see the promo. That's what I want to see. I would never bet against Harold in anything.
Never bet against Harold
or something. That is a man who's got some underlying rage that would come out in a bloody way.
That motherfucker got lost at sea. He's an animal. He's a feral animal. You would not fuck with Harold Bishop. Absolutely not. He would maul Alf.
I feel like Alf would give the best promo, but I feel like Harold is a bit of a dark horse.
Yeah.
When that bell rings, that shit will kick off. When the bell, like that nice demeanor, like there's no magic in his eyes there. He's looking at the TV ratings there, and he's thinking, "Fuck you, home and away, Alf. You're my mortal enemy." Bang, Alf is done, and Alf's the heel here. Harold Bishop is the face, or he may be in between it because there's such a sinister side to this motherfucker. Like, Harold Bishop all day. I'm backing my guy Harold 100%.
The Americans are going to have no idea what we're talking about.
Right?
Zero.
It'll only be the same for him as when Tony Storm did that promo a couple of weeks ago, and they were like, "Yeah, okay." No idea what she's just said, but we've got one from Dunner on the Discord there. He says, what does Sam think is the best direction for Aussie Open now they're in the Callis family together? Do they stay apart or form a heel team?
I feel like they're teasing that Big Kyle Davis is not necessarily okay with this whole thing. And sorry, Mark Davis. Mark Davis is not okay with this whole thing because, you looked at his body language in the promos they've given. He was and the way they've been teasing, like he doesn't necessarily want to lay the boots in the way that the rest of the team does. Brian Cage was like, Mark, you're in the Don Callis family now. You got to get your feet dirty. You got to get your hands dirty. So my take is that he will end up on the Omega and Ospreay side when they end up divulging into this, big multi-man settings that I think are coming up in Double or Nothing. That's what I think. And because I would love to see Aussie Open. I loved Aussie Open as a team, but the way that Kyle Fletcher has just gone into the stratosphere was
100%.
No one predicted it. You couldn't have predicted
No.
it.
Nope.
But the way that he's gone into the stratosphere, you just have to keep riding that. He is a singles star now. He is a big deal as a singles wrestler, and you don't want to put him back in a tag team and say, "Oh, we'll try and we'll push him again in a year's time." You want to just keep pushing him as a single star at the moment because it's working so well, and he's getting over so much. As much as I love Aussie Open.
AEW are good at doing that, but like most of the time, like when they see that person's got momentum, they will back them. They did it with Swerve, they're doing it with Hardy right now, and they chose the right time. They did it with Willow. They are quite good at noticing. They don't, like other companies, maybe resent people that get over organically or without it being what they predicted. So I do think they strike him while the iron's hot with him, that they know they've got a superstar in the making. I wanted Aussie Open to get back together because one, I felt Mark Davis is going to get lost in the shuffle now, but you can't think like that. That's not the right way to think when you're thinking in business terms. Carl Fletcher feels like this guy could be a proper bona fide main eventer by the end of 2025. A real heel main eventer. They compare him to Randy Orton. I mean, that's fucking ridiculous because Fletcher's entertaining in the ring. So it's a stupid comparison.
Better than Randy Orton already.
Miles better. Like I look forward to a Fletcher match. Like when I watch WWE, a Randy Orton match would be my least favorite thing on the card, and Baron Corbin would be on that card as well. So like I never look forward to his matches. It's nonsense. But you don't need to make comparisons. Carl Fletcher's his own man. The guy's rising in fucking amazing. There's no way AEW are going to halt it now. I feel for Davis in that aspect. They seem they've got ideas for him, which is good. I wanted Aussie Open to have a tag title run, and who knows down the line where we come down to when you cycle someone out of the main event in 18 months' time and give them a rest down the card. Who knows what that can hold at that point? But 100%. Yeah, 2025 could be the year of Fletcher amongst many other people.
What you guys said, it's exactly the same. I feel like it's gone now. Unfortunately, it's the time has passed for Aussie Open in AEW, at least for the foreseeable. Kyle Fletcher is that good. He's an absolute superstar, and I feel like putting him in a tag team would just be it would just be a waste of time, wouldn't it? At the moment, he's phenomenal. The rise of him over the last couple of months has been insane. He's someone who's had the opportunity, he's grabbed it with both hands, and fair play to him. He's an absolute phenom, isn't he? Really. The next question was another one from How Are You Slug. Who do the Poms think is the most iconic Neighbours character? Down here in Oz, we think it's Toadie. It's Joe Mangle for me.
I disagree with that, to be honest, but...
Who would you say then?
Oh, it's got to be Charlene, Kylie Minogue.
Oh, it has, hasn't it, actually, yeah? I just remember Joe Mangle.
Her wedding with Jason Donovan / Charlene and Shane's wedding is the thing of TV folklore here in Australia. It's like the equivalent of Hogan and Andre drawing 30 million people on Saturday night's main event, but down here in Australia.
I was a fiend for Neighbours in the 80s and 90s. But July 87, I was just approaching 2, so I'd be bullshitting if I said I remembered that wedding. So it's very hard for me to resonate with something I didn't watch at the time. Toadie was a mainstay, wasn't he? The dude was always there. But there was a dude that always came in and out of it. Helen's Paul something.
Paul Robinson.
Oh, I know you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, he was an evil bastard, wasn't he? Yeah.
The Susan and Carl, the Kennedys. Kennedys.
Yeah.
Kennedys.
Dr. Kennedy. He's a big Liverpool fan, the fella, isn't he? Yeah. What's his name? Anyway, yeah. For me, it was, like I say, Joe Mangle. Especially when he spent loads of time. Oh, no, what about Henry? Henry fucking, what's his face?
Who the fuck's Henry?
What was his name? Oh, man.
Luke Carpenter.
Craig McLaughlin. Craig McLaughlin, he was Henry, he was Madge's fucking son, wasn't he, son? Whatever, anyway, yeah.
You can't go wrong with Harold. You can't go wrong with saying Harold's the most iconic name.
Harold. What a dude.
Luke Carpenter's a good shout, actually, yeah.
Luke Harpenter's
because Kylie's the crossover. Yeah. Kylie's the big breakout star.
Yeah, she's a superstar,
like countless people have tried to follow her, but, for the main stage...
and turn into a whopping twat.
and the final question was from Punish Badoof, and it's a fucking can of worms. It's good luck with this. Can the feeling in AEW ever be restored?
Oh, no. Boo.
So
does the feel even exist?
Yeah, it did. Like the feeling was when we were all 20 years old and going out on the town, and the music was great, and we were attractive to the opposite sex, and the beers tasted better, and everything was cheaper, and
No, we didn't have IBS or
that's the
chronic
feeling, and it'll
anxiety.
never come back because we're all old and we've got kids, and we've got the mortgage now. And AEW isn't AEW isn't new and shining anymore. The feeling will never come back. The feeling was the feeling of hope and never being let down by this thing, and we've been let down by it at times now, and it's just a wrestling promotion now. It's not everything that we could ever want it to be, and everything to everyone. That was the feeling. But AEW can still be a really bloody good wrestling show. Even if the feeling can never be restored, because the feeling is nostalgia. the feeling is being young
that's what
again.
it is. The feeling is
feeling
nostalgia.
is having hair and not being bald.
The feeling of that period was it was the perfect storm of
I don't
coming out
remember
of a pandemic. It was coming out of a pandemic. It was the fact that we just got CM Punk out of retirement. Danielson has joined in his peak year still against WWE's wishes. They are getting people left, right, and centre. Adam Cole's turning up at the end of pay-per-views. WWE is in dire straits. Nothing's going right in WWE. We can finally go back to events. We're getting CM Punk back on TV. We're getting Grand Slam in front of 20,000 people. We're getting all these things. These crowds are rushing back because they've been stuck indoors for so fucking long. It was the perfect storm of everything. But at the same time, if you watch the shows with the sound off, 2024 shows were better than 2021's. The pay-per-views were light years ahead of 2021's. It just didn't have that emotional involvement we had from a pandemic, from CM Punk, from Bryan Danielson, and from the fact there was zero competition from the big bad company, who are even more big and bad now, but for some reason we like them because yeet.
Fucking hell. Yeet.
Yeet.
Oh my God, man. What a way to end. Yeet.
Yeet.
Oh. Sam,
Yeet.
tell everyone where they can find you, what you've got coming up.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I've been looking forward to coming on for this for a while. It hasn't let me down. If you did enjoy listening to me, you can jump onto the AEW Match Guide Podcast. I release that fortnightly. It's on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We've got lots of great podcasts over there. The Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast, Tunnel Talk. We've got One Nation Radio, Keeping It Strong Style, all sorts of stuff. But if you want to listen to me, the AEW Match Guide Podcast, each fortnight, I should say, I pick a match from AEW's history, one of the great matches AEW's had, and break it down. So look at the build, look at the characters that are involved, look at the match itself, and then the legacy and what's just happened. This week, it will probably be out by the time you guys listen to this. I'll be talking about Hangman Page versus Darby Allin from last year, as it's the first time I've really talked about the Hangman heel turn, which is pretty exciting. Hangman Page being probably my favorite wrestler going around at the moment. So a lot to dig into there. And actually, if you also want to look at something else, I had Andy on a few months ago now. We talked about Chris Jericho, Bryan Danielson. So there's a couple of suggestions to get you started, or just look, honestly, just flick through the sheet. We've had nearly the feed. I've done nearly 50 matches at this point. Pick a match that you liked and dive into it. It's a very positive podcast for the most part. Because we're looking at the greatest matches AEW's had. So there's a lot of positive stuff to say, a lot of enjoyable things to remember and dig into, and you might listen to it and hopefully find out something you didn't know about the match before, or find a different way of looking at it, or if nothing else, just get to relive the awesome memories that you have associated with that match. So the AEW Match Guide Podcast, or you can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Sir_Samuel, or I'm actually on the group chat wrestling Discord every now and again as well. So you might find me lurking around there as well.
Brilliant. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate that. And I guess that's a wrap. So see you next week. And listen to Sam's podcast. It's very good. Also buy one of his t-shirts because it's clean as fuck, that design. It's very good.
Buy all of them. Buy every fucking one. Buy them all.
And if you're at Grand Slam, come say hello. I'll be wearing my AEW Match Guide shirt. I'll be there. I think I'm think I'm going to be like near where the cameras are set up, probably like with the hard cam based on where my seats are. Come say hello, come have a beer. If you're really keen, if you're really one of the hardcores, I'm going to be at a pub. Me and a couple of other friends are going to be at a pub and stuff beforehand to have a beer and a feed before the show. The details about that, you can find it on various social medias, or if you listen to the Match Guide this week, I've got details there too.
Amazing. Well, mate, have a fucking great time on Saturday. It's been a long time coming. And yeah, thanks so much for coming on today.
Yeah, we'll chat to you again down the line, mate.
Definitely.
100%.
Fellas, have a good evening or have a good morning as it's all the way tomorrow where you are. And yeah, roll on Grand Slam.
Bye.